Ask most people and they will tell you that £65,000 cannot buy you a single HMO. But I used £65,000 to buy 3 HMOs in just 10 months. All using 3 powerful types of leverage. In this video, I will share exactly how I did it, step by step, so you can do the same. Hi, I'm Adam. I'm a doctor who invests in HMOs as a side business alongside my full-time job in the pharmaceutical industry. If you're a busy professional with limited capital and limited time, this is the video I wish I had when I was starting out. In this video, I will describe the 3 types of leverage that helped me turn £65,000 into 3 HMOs worth £750,000 in just 10 months, all whilst working full-time as a doctor. And what were the 3 types of leverage that I used? Well, I used joint ventures, fixed-term investor loans, and bridging development finance. And stick around to the end because I'll be sharing the exact numbers and how I stacked each of my 3 deals. So let's talk about the first type of leverage, and that is joint ventures, also known as JVs. This really is a fantastic way to get started in property for people who have minimal capital. And a JV is when 2 people pool resources. So one person brings the education and the ability to do the day-to-day tasks, the sweat equity, whereas the other person would bring the majority, if not all, of the capital. And you share everything. So you share the profits, the ownerships, and the risks 50-50. So how do you find your joint venture partners? Well, what I learned from my property education is tell everyone what you're doing. Personally, I approached an old friend from medical school who's already a successful entrepreneur, and I basically told him what I was doing. I said, I'm getting educated, I'm willing to put in all the legwork and the sweat equity, but I'm looking for a partner who will fund the majority of the capital. And basically he replied very quickly in a WhatsApp message saying, let's do this. So we formed a company together and we created a long-term business partnership with the purpose of building a high cash flow HMO portfolio. But JVs can be modified or tweaked to suit your own circumstances. So for my second HMO, as you'll see at the end of this video, my business partner did put in 100% of the money and I put in 100% of the sweat equity. So this is what I would describe as a classical joint venture. However, for my first HMO, I accept. I had no track record, I had the education, but there was no proof in the pudding at this stage. So we opted for a hybrid JV. This is where I also put in some money and he put in the majority of the money. This way, I also had some skin in the game. And I was certainly very happy with this approach because without my business partner, without private finance, it would take me years to get started purchasing HMOs. So what are the pros of a joint venture? Well, because you're sharing the equity, usually there's no money at all to pay back. So if you don't have much capital starting out, this is a great strategy for you. Also, you're sharing the risk as well. And what are the cons? Well, you're also sharing the profits, so you won't get as much if you owned it in your own name. You're also sharing control, so make sure you choose your joint venture partner very wisely. It's a bit like a marriage, but without having a ring. So let's move on to leverage type number 2, and this is fixed term investor loans. And this is analogous to a simple loan really. So an individual or a business can lend money to yourself as an individual or your business for a fixed term, say 12 months, at a fixed agreed interest rate. And at the end of the term, you pay back the person who lent you that money, what they lent you, plus the interest on top. And the benefit here is that you don't give up equity in the property, so you keep that all to yourself. These are legal agreements, however, so always use a solicitor drawn up loan agreement. Don't cut any corners here. And for my third HMO, I raised £95,000 from private investors using fixed term investor loans. And believe it or not, I actually raised this money at a Christmas meal. So who says you can't mix business with pleasure? So let's recap the pros and cons of fixed term investor loans. So the main advantage is that you keep 100% of the ownership and therefore the profit. Also, compared to joint ventures, it's relatively simple and it's not a long-term commitment. And they certainly are flexible, so you can pay the interest at the end of the term. So for instance, I chose to pay back the investors after 12 months, and that was for cash flow reasons. But you can also pay the interest monthly. So some investors would like to see their interest landing in their account every single month. I certainly would. And you would imagine this would make them more likely to reinvest in the future. So there are different options out there. The cons, well, obviously you need to pay back the loan. So you need to have a robust strategy to pay back the loan and the interest at the end of the term. Stay tuned to the end of this video because I will be showing how I pay back my 2 investors at the end of the 12 months. So let's discuss leverage type 3, and this is a big one. This is bridging and development finance. In my opinion, the key to accelerating multiple deals in a short time frame is strategically and smartly leveraging bank finance, and I personally chose bridging and development finance. And here's how it worked for me, however details will vary by the various lenders out there. In my experience, a bridging lender would lend between 50 and 70% of the purchase price. This is what's known as the bridge. But what was completely surprising to me, and really is a game changer, is that there's also development finance. So my HMO refurbs were costing around £150,000, and the bridging bank would offer development finance that would cover the cost of your refurb loan, also known as the development facility. And how this worked was that we paid the builders, but then the bank would pay us back in arrears. So essentially, we needed some cash in the account, but we would be able to get that money back after the bank had visited the site to see the progress on site. And the amount a bridging lender will loan is fully dependent on how much the HMO will be worth after you've done your refurb. So this is the end value, also known in property as the gross development value, the GDV. And one way to really force up the end value is to use a strategy known as commercial valuations. This is where the house is no longer valued on a bricks and mortar basis like your neighbours would most likely be. Instead, it's valued based on its rental income. And I took out my bridging loans for 12 months. The rationale here was that the build for actual construction would take about 6 months, and then this would leave 6 months for any hiccups that took place during the project, and also refinance also can take several months as well. So it gives you a bit of breathing space. And this leverage truly is a game changer. So the bank was lending 50% of the purchase price and the entire refurb costs. I did not even know this exists. And how do you pay them back, you might be thinking? Well, because you forced up the value using a commercial valuation, you can get a 75% mortgage, and then using the money that lands in your bank, you can then pay back the bridging lender, and any spare, well, you can use that towards your next project. And that's what's known as the BRRR method, or buy, refurbish, refinance, rent. And if you'd like me to do a video specifically on this, let me know in the comments below, because today we've just scratched the surface. So let's talk about the pros and cons of bridging finance. Well, in my opinion, one of the big pros actually, and people don't really talk about this, is that the bridging lenders do not want to lose their money. So they, as well as you, have already done, I'm sure, diligently, but they really pressure test the deal. They get someone to visit the property beforehand to see what they think it will be worth after you've done the work, to get a pre-valuation, an anticipated GDV, let's say. And I've already explained that you can buy a property having just about 50% of the purchase price capital available, and also do a very expensive refurb using bridging development finance. So let's talk about the cons. Well, the elephant in the room, and what bridging loans are renowned for, is the high costs. So this includes the interest costs and all the arrangement fees and the broker fees. But the way I personally look at that is it's all about the deal analysis. If those numbers are factored into your analysis and the numbers still work at the end and you're getting a good return on your cash employed, then I think it's a goer. Just accept the costs, it's part of life. If you want me to do another video specifically talking about the costs associated with bridging finance, let me know as well. So let's get down to business. Let's look at those exact numbers I promised. So the exact numbers for HMO1. So this was the hybrid joint venture where I put in £45,000. So this was a 3-bed terrace house that was converted into a 6-bed HMO, purchased in May 24. It was purchased for £240,000. The day one costs, including the purchase cost, stamp duty and all the fees, came to £135,000. The refurb for this project was £168,000, and the end value, the GDV that we refinanced that, was £540,000. So I took out a 75% HMO mortgage, which after fees came to £405,000. And with this £405,000, I was able to pay back my bridging lender the £330,000 that I owed them. This meant I could also pull out £75,000 from the deal, but I did leave £60,000 in the deal. The net rent we achieved on this co-living young professional HMO, a little over £22,000 per year. And this meant that our return on cash employed, also known as the return on the cash left in the deal, i.e. that 60,000, ended up being 37%. So let's now look at the second HMO, which was purchased using the classic JV approach. So this was a 2-bed terrace house that was converted into a 7-bed HMO, purchased in February 2025. Purchase price was £247,500. The funding model was a classic JV where my business partner put in all the money and I did all the sweat equity, but I put in no money myself. The day one cost was £120,000 £126,000 on this occasion. The refurb was £172,000 and the pre-valuation given to us by our bridging loan for this property was £540,000. This refurb is well underway and will complete next month, so make sure you stay tuned to future videos to have a walkthrough of that one. And last but not least, let's look at HMO 3 that was purchased using fixed term investor loans as well as £20,000 of my own capital. So this is a 3-bed house that's in the process of being converted into a 7-bed co-living HMO, and it was purchased in March 25. I bought it for £265,000. The day one cost was £119,000 and the refurb costs on this project will be £175,000. The anticipated GDV this time is a bit larger, to £560,000, and the refurb on this one completes in October. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying this content, because in the coming months I'll be doing walkthrough tours of all 3 of these HMOs. So how will we pay back the investors then for HMO 3? Well, I'll pay back the investors by taking advantage of the BRRR method. So we know from my first HMO that I was able to pull out £75,000 from that deal, and we've got HMOs 2 and 3 ongoing. So from those 2 projects, across both of them, we'd expect to pull out at least £140,000. £95,000 was buried from the investors, so it will be using that £140,000 that will comfortably pay back the investors and their interest. So time for a recap. Let's look at these numbers and see what it all means. So here's the reality. I bought 3 HMOs in 10 months with using £65,000 of my own capital. These HMOs across the 3 of them were worth just over £750,000 when we bought them. And the net rent pre-tax for my first HMO is £1,850, and remember this was bought in a joint venture agreement, so my share on that would be £925 per month, and this equates to about £11,000 per year. So after the 3 HMOs I could expect £33,000 per year. My £65,000 that I put into the deal would be paid back in about 2 years, and that is what smart leverage applied with precision can achieve. And if you're still watching this video now, well, thank you. And I've actually got 2 bonus types of leverage to share, particularly for those of you who are busy professionals investing alongside a busy 9 to 5. So the first bonus type of leverage, education. So here, what you're doing with property education is you're leveraging other people's knowledge to get you further, faster. You can leverage other people's experience and mentorship to accelerate your success. And if you want my honest verdict on property training, is it a scam? Is it a shortcut to success? Check out my video over here. The second bonus type of leverage, well, that's your power team. What you're doing with your power team, you're essentially leveraging other people's times and skills to free up your own time. And for me as a busy professional, there's 2 members of my power team who I really leverage their time and skills. So during the refurb project, this is the main contractor I use. So I do not have time to be managing and coordinating the individual trades. If I did, I'd be much more stressed and I'd probably have lost all my hair by now. And similarly, once the HMO is actually up and running, it's beautiful, it just needs to be filled. I don't have the time to show around prospective tenants on viewings, and I certainly don't have time to manage the various bits and bobs that come up during the management of a HMO. So that's why I use a letting agent. Make sure you stick around in future videos, because I'll be doing a video where I break down the exact power team that I use to take me from 0 to 4 HMOs in 22 months. So why did I choose property combined with leverage over stocks and shares? So with shares, quite simply, if you wanted to buy £100,000 worth of shares, no bank or private investor is going to give you £50,000 to do so. That's what makes property such a unique asset class, and using the BRRR method really takes it to the next level. And in my personal opinion, unless you're an investment banker, I think the strategy where you save up spare cash from your day job, buy a HMO, I think that's outdated. So I earn 6 figures a year. If I was to follow that approach, I would not be able to buy more than 1 HMO every 5 years. And I'm not sure about you, but I don't have that patience. So if you want to grow fast, the smart, strategic way is to leverage other people's money and combine that with bank finance. And that's how you scale in months, not decades. So in this video, I hope I've shown you it's not how much capital you have, it's how you leverage it. But I believe in full transparency on this channel. The journey to buying my first HMO was far from smooth. So in my next video, I'm going to share how my first HMO deal nearly collapsed when the lender pulled out. That is until a stranger off LinkedIn sent me a message which truly resuscitated the deal. So like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.